Alright. Welcome to the Report, where we watch and talk about every episode of the Colbert Report from 2005 to 2014. That's a lot of episodes. I'm Nathaniel,
And I'm Alex.
and Colbert's guest today is Jeff Daniels.
Right? It's because Harriet Myers officially withdrew from the Supreme Court nomination before this episode. So there's a big fat botch nomination in Gauntlet of Fire. The Goblet of Fire movie will be out in only a few weeks, so I guess that's not that
why it's
surprising.
relevant to the
Yeah.
story.
And the first segment is about at first Colbert's complaining about white pumpkins because they're not real pumpkins because pumpkins are called pumpkins because they're pumpkin colored.
Yep.
Says
For
they just
example,
look
if you had pumpkin pie and it was
a
made
wedge of phlegm.
I mean, white pumpkins would be a wedge of phlegm. So
Yeah, he says he's a Thanksgiving traditionalist.
nothing that wasn't on the first table.
Yeah, he doesn't do cranberries. No, I think people thought that was unlikely because cranberries might be not that pleasant without sugar. But
Okay.
yeah,
Do we know like what's the modern on the modern Thanksgiving table that's definitely wasn't on the first Thanksgiving table? I know the turkey was there
I mean it's
turkey?
hard to say. I mean the thing is that the only thing we know about what they could have eaten is that they were fowl hunting that day, so they could have had turkey if
Hmm.
they caught any. And it seems like when the Wampanoag came over, which it doesn't seem like they were expecting them, but they did. They
Yeah.
had 5 deer they brought with them 5 deer, so
Okay.
I guess that's what we know we would have eaten that at least.
Yep. And is there anything else we know that they would have? Or is there
I mean, it's hard
anything?
to say.
Would mashed potatoes have been?
Probably not. I don't think
Probably not
potatoes would have been
introduced to
grown
North
in that
America at
area.
that.
I mean, they would in North America. Well, maybe not. I don't
What about
know. If they could find any, I'm not sure though.
Yeah.
Well, there might have been some squash. I guess they might have introduced that, but
Yeah.
and it says he invites some guys over from the casino to make it traditional too.
Yep.
And then apparently Rush Lieber is from Madison, Wisconsin. This is
Mm.
kind of a little city, but I mean, it's just a choice, I
I
guess.
think in the fictional universe, I don't think Colbert is supposed to be that big of a host either.
Yeah,
I think he's supposed to be not nationally famous.
maybe it's hard to say. I mean, I think that might change, but
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is though, in this one, you don't actually hear Russ Lieber, or you see the picture of him with like David Cross with big hair. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing they just didn't want to bother to ask him to record it.
Yep.
And he says that they're GMO, that white pumpkins are GMOs or something. I'm pretty sure they don't require genetic modification, but because of that, Colbert likes them
Yeah,
because
because Russ
even the
Lieber
little
doesn't like him.
booze, he says.
Yep.
The word is quitter.
Because Harriet
Myers.
Myers,
The E in Harriet E. Myers stands for quitter, he says.
which is a funny joke.
He references the song Matilda by Harry Belafonte, which I guess
Why does he reference it
I
again?
don't know. I guess they just said he left, she took the money and ran.
Okay. Did Harriet Myers make any money off of being nominated to the Supreme Court?
Um, I don't know.
Can you make money off of that?
I mean, maybe later, but
Yeah.
sure on the Supreme Court. But and he says like Harriet Myers was a good lawyer, and it says so was Star Jones. Star Jones, it was just like he had a TV show, Jones and Jury, and she was on The
Okay.
View at the time. So
it's like a TV
yeah,
lawyer, not a
yeah.
real lawyer. Does Star Jones actually have a
I mean, yeah.
JD?
I think most of them do.
Okay.
And this says, see, I like we're quitting, saying that like there's quitters and the winners, justices are dyers, not quitters. Because Bush doesn't quit, he didn't have a timetable for that.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Iraq.
and then he just randomly talks about a New York Times article about tree climbing goats. If goats can climb trees, how come Harriet Myers can't try to power through the?
Goats have been able to climb trees for a while, though, right? That's
Yeah,
it wasn't anything.
and well, I guess Arlen Specter got her goat. Arlen Specter
Yeah.
was still a Republican at this time, but I mean, he would switch parties, so I imagine he probably would have been one of the Republicans that was not willing to vote for her. I guess
Yeah. Where did Arlen Specter represent?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And who's in his seat now?
I guess Pat Toomey would replace him,
Pat
and
Toomey
John
replaced him,
Fetterman
and then
replaced Pat Toomey.
okay.
And then he also talked about how the White Sox finally won the World Series to talk about perseverance.
Who's on that White Sox team?
Not sure, but
I'm not sure.
it says he's a quitter, like being
Acquitted.
acquitted. Yeah.
Yep.
And you thought this was the best word?
So far in the
Yeah.
show, yeah.
I mean, he says he feel, and he still keeps going on about Harriet Myers. And the next bit, he has a whole bookshelf of broken dreams. I
With
guess the Green Day song "Boulevard of Broken Dreams" of the previous year, right? Was that what inspired it? I guess. I mean,
my
that was
guess
from
would
a
be
painting. Yeah.
my guess would be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about Abe Fortas' nomination for Chief Justice Field because of his $15,000 speaker fee, which, I mean, for like the modern Supreme Court things, doesn't seem like that much.
So what's the deal with Fortis? What was his actual?
He was Lyndon Johnson made him a justice of the Supreme Court, and I guess later he wanted to elevate him to Chief Justice, but the Republicans in the Senate were able to stop that,
Okay.
and I think Nixon made Warren Burger Chief Justice instead.
All right. What happened when Fortis died?
I'm not sure if he died. I think he might have stepped down after that.
Okay. And it's he had Harriet Myers to the bookshelf of all the other Supreme Court
Yeah.
justices, which we will go over.
Oh, it actually says here, according to Wikipedia, at least it says it was actually $20,000, but
Speaker fee.
and also it says that he was somebody that was under investigation for insider trading, because that probably made it look worse.
And he's only just a justice for 4 years.
Yeah, he wound up stepping down after the Chief Justice thing failed. So
Why did he feel the need to step down?
I guess because of the investigation thing.
Okay. And then who's the next?
And I have Douglas Ginsburg, who was Ronald Reagan's on Supreme Court nominee, and he wound up. Then they found out something about like this thing where he said that he used marijuana at some point. And,
Apparently, that's why they.
yeah, I mean,
Which is
America the book made a joke about all the failed Supreme Court nominations too, even before this. So
yeah.
I imagine they probably had the jokes from
It's
that
hard to
too.
imagine a Supreme Court justice getting turned down because he like admitted
Yeah,
to smoking weed at one point nowadays. But I guess
yeah, and of course,
in
like
that
the joke
era,
from America the book is, quote, "Have you looked at the ruling on Hepburn v. Griswold? I mean, have you really looked at it?" And he says that Colbert says that he gets him like some fresh weed from Oregon.
okay.
And of course, you have Robert Bork, but it mentions that apparently, like, Bork wrote an editorial in the Wall Street Journal saying that Harriet Myers wasn't qualified. So
Can you go more into Bork? What was
yeah,
interesting about him?
he. I mean, of course, he was a big figure in the whole Saturday Night Massacre thing with Nixon, where he fired the Solicitor
Important
General.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bork wound up, and then Reagan wound up nominating him for the Supreme Court, but
Hmm.
the Democrats still controlled the Senate, so they were able to stop it.
Stop Bork from getting.
Yeah, and of course, like Republicans were pretty mad about that, and they wound up trying making Bork like the verb for like making a nomination fail. Or
Yeah. Bork is I think, an inherently funny name,
yeah,
which is, I
that probably
think,
didn't help.
partially one of the reasons why Robert Bork couldn't become a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah,
Because you can't be Justice Bork.
yeah.
It doesn't sound right.
And then Trent Lott, who was still in the Senate at this time, I guess. I know that
From
previously, I
where?
guess like Mississippi. That I
Mississippi?
know that previously, I guess, an attempt to like make a majority leader had failed or something when a blogger noted that at Strom Thurmond's memorial service he said the country would be better off if Strom Thurmond became president, and
Oh,
that
okay. Did that do him in, or is that.
I'm not sure. I mean, he would eventually like resign, but it seems like that was just to take a job at like a lobbying firm because they were changing the laws to make that harder, and he
Okay.
wanted to grab his chance, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
How much do lobbying firms just pay a lot of money?
I assume
Where do they get the money from? The companies that
the
are.
yeah
Yeah. Trent Lott. And who replaced him?
yeah
Trent. Yeah.
Trent Lott was replaced by um
He
he was replaced by Roger Wicker, who
and
was
he
still there.
yeah, and he was at one point majority leader in the Senate,
Yeah, but
but only very briefly.
technically I think he's actually minority leader when he stepped down. So
Yeah. But he was for less than a year the Senate Majority Leader from January
no, he
2000
was Senate Majority Leader for about 5
for
years.
about 5 years. Okay.
Yes, Bob Dole stepped down when he was running for president. So
Yeah.
yeah,
When senators are running for president, how much work do they actually do in the Senate?
I don't know. I imagine that probably does cause problems sometimes.
Because if like they're in Iowa, they can't
Yeah,
like vote on anything in theory, right?
yeah. And because they're saying like in a month, who will even remember this?
Yeah. I
Which is
guess.
kind of true, but I mean, it is definitely. I guess it gets
So,
talked about in this context.
yeah. So then.
I mean, maybe for the Democrats, keeping Myers might have been better because she might have been better than Alito, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then Myers, he puts a portrait of her
Yeah,
on the stand
yeah.
next
Then we
to
get
Dworkin.
then we get a second better Genoa district
Yeah. With
with Barney
Barney
Frank,
Frank.
who is definitely a lot more famous than Jack Kingston nationally.
Yeah.
And so he goes through the things about the district like he did before. At first I thought that this was the first time he did that, but I checked the first one again, and he did pretty
He
much the
does that
same
the
thing.
first time. Okay. And what does he say about the Massachusetts
He
floor?
talks about it being like containing Barnstable, Massachusetts, was the place where was this spawned many book reports from being the inspiration for Moby Dick. The
Okay.
first country club in Bookline, whose favorite game was excluding Jews. And he calls the district shape the Dread Scorpion of the East, as that's supposed to be like the gerrymander, which was also in the similar area in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Does it actually look like a dread scorpion?
I don't know.
Not really.
And and of course, like the whole joke of the interview winds up being that Colbert doesn't know Barney Frank is gay and keeps like
Yeah.
dancing around the question.
Which is very absurd for that time to not know
Yeah,
Barney Frank was gay.
and he calls him like flamboyantly liberal and says
Yep.
it's man on congressman action.
He also talks about how Colbert mentions that he had to go to like left-handed conversion therapy.
That's later, yeah. Like he asks him about like you self-identified as a group being discriminated against, and he says, "Is it difficult to be openly left-handed?" And he says
Yeah.
he was born left-handed. So that's okay. But did they ever try to like take you to a minister youth group to get you to come over to their
Yeah.
side?
Now, is Colbert himself actually left-handed?
I'm not sure.
Is
But,
Barney Frank publicly
I
left-handed?
assume he is because I mean I feel like he wouldn't have answered that honestly.
Yeah.
And this is also the first time, at least on the show, I think I hear him ask the question: George Bush, great president or greatest
Greatest
president?
president.
And of
Yeah.
course, Barney Frank doesn't buy into that. But then again, I found that it seems like I think he called Bill O'Reilly Papa Bear on like the segment in between the Daily Show and the Colbert Report before, so maybe
Maybe.
he asked the question. I'll have to check.
Yeah.
And then he says the other like red herrings he brings up is that you're Jewish. Then let's address the elephant in the room. You're overweight.
Yeah.
And then he winds up letting Barney Frank mention he has a boyfriend, and then like
That really
apologizes for
shocks
not knowing
Colbert.
that he's gay.
Yeah.
And then like he apologizes for apologizing to him. And
Yeah.
he asks him who else is gay. I feel like back then, I guess that was still commonly like the question of wondering which celebrities were gay. Like,
I mean, there's still probably
I mean,
like
I imagine, yeah, there
celebrities
are.
in the closet,
Yeah, I'm
and
sure
probably
there are.
like lots of representatives.
Yeah,
Um, and also I think Better Know District is pretty funny, given that the interviews are pretty novel.
yeah. And he has to zoom in on the big board because of how small the district is.
Yeah,
Can't imagine that would have to happen quite a few times, especially with the ones from New York
yeah.
City.
Um, and then with Colbert and Barney Frank, Colbert does does a really good job with the interview. Like, really, I'd like
Yeah,
to
so you
stress
think?
that.
Yeah. So as a
Um,
Jeff Daniels on, and he says this is the shameless Oscar push because
yeah,
he had a starring role in The Squid and the Whale, which is by Noah Baumbach, about a family getting divorced in the 80s.
and it's not well reviewed, I
No,
assume.
it's pretty well.
Was a well thought of movie.
Yeah, Good Night
Okay,
and Good Luck was even more like acclaimed, but he didn't. He had like a a
small
minor
role.
role.
Yeah. Did Squid and the Whale get nominated?
I don't think he got nominated for Oscars. It seems like a lot of like the smaller critics liked it, but
Okay.
I mean, Noah Baumbach is still pretty big.
Yeah.
I
What?
mean,
So I did not get nominated.
it did get nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Okay. Did it win?
No,
No. Okay.
yeah. Oh, this was Jesse Eisenberg that started, I guess. And but the thing is, though, that like Colbert decides to make the whole thing quizzing Jeff Daniels on his knowledge of his hometown of Chelsea, Michigan, where he still lives most of the time.
Because like Jeff Daniels is famous for not living in
Yeah.
Hollywood.
So like takes out of the and he asks about the Chelsea Standard and Dexter Leader. which were both real newspapers. They both seem to have been closed, but they were both owned by the same company at the time.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels admits to being a Chelsea Standard
Yeah.
subscriber.
Oh, that Rag the Dexter leader run by those liberal elites. And
yeah.
And then he talks about the senior center, that $29.9 million in bonds for the jail, which is definitely a real thing, but he couldn't find that much about the senior center or the 23,000 signatures against the sheriff in a petition.
Of course, Jeff Daniels is kind of boring interview.
Yeah.
He doesn't answer anything really. He just kind of nods and goes along.
I know that when Colbert had Jeff Daniels on The Late Show, he did a bit where he talked about random news events in his hometown, so I imagine that he probably still liked that idea. And
yeah.
Whatever.
But it's like, he doesn't want to say anything because he's kind of trained not to.
Yeah.
And
I also brought out this might be one of the first times that they have the interview as the third segment, which would definitely become the norm later.
Yeah.
And he says, "Why we live in Hollywood, it's a great place to raise kids with a wholesome atmosphere," which I assume is sarcastic.
Yeah.
There's an Easter egg hunt at Sylvester Stallone's house. There's like a random overhead shot of
Sylvester Stallone.
Of like the interview.
Of the interview.
Like, I'm not sure like why they put that in. I see they just have the camera up there always, but
yeah, maybe they want to see how it looked.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess it's kind of boring interview. Are there actual Easter egg hunts at Sylvester Stallone's house?
I don't know. Maybe you could see it on the reality show, which I did see advertised.
Sylvester Stallone's Easter egg hunt?
No, it's just called The Family Stallone.
Oh, okay.
And then,
do you think that they deal with Stalloneliness because of their isolation from regular society?
And then we have yet another day segment with Christine and Esteban again, who was translating everything into Spanish. Yeah. Couldn't find out who the actor was that played Esteban. Yeah. I don't think.
So is yet another day an actual? Is it just made up for Colbert?
I'm pretty sure it's just
because it's really weird that they've done it twice now.
I assume it is just to make fun of morning shows for being dumb, I guess.
Yeah. But I guess it's just for Colbert.
Yeah. Oh, I had an interview with Brett Gelman talking about the time he was on.
Yeah, but it's like, it's I think it's a funny bit, but it's not not related to the rest of the show at all.
I mean, the thing is, they did have only like a few minutes for those bits at the end, so they couldn't really put in anything substantial.
Yeah, what network is Yet Another Day supposed to be on?
I'm not sure if they ever say.
Well, because
Colbert rarely refers to his network as Comedy Central anyway, because I know once like he did make a joke like, you know what the name of this channel is, Information Central.
Yeah. So does he doesn't have a fictional like he's not fictionally part of like CBS or anything?
I'm not sure. I doubt it. Like I feel like that might be getting to.
Yeah. And they wouldn't let him do that.
Yeah. And he also mentions hanging out with Fergie and the Black Eyed Peas. I guess we're getting popular around this time.
Also, isn't Esteban Colbert also another?
Esteban Colberto does come up later,
but not this.
Not
Esteban.
yet. Yeah. And so I guess that's the end of the episode.
Signing off.
Good light and good luck, as the title of the movie was.